Welcome back to the Cold Hard Truth on Sports. We have been experiencing a few technical difficulties this evening with our main hosting partner, and the show has cut off twice. So I don't know what point it was at where you last heard, but we're back up and running now. And what I was just talking about is, there are some quarterbacks in the league that aren't really panning out, and in play, not in stats. I'll get into the stats here in just a second. I have a motto. I always kind of what I live by, and the motto is, life happens and you don't choose when. Can't change the past. Right now. And for some of us, that is enough. That is enough. And for others, knowing and understanding and appreciating that concept, it can be tough. Life is tough, whether someone wants to admit it or not. So, when I make my predictions or criticisms or whatever you want to call them, my takes, nothing I'm doing or saying is ever with an angle to put someone down or harm somebody. It's merely observation or shared information or opinions. And the beautiful thing about opinions is they change. They change. So if today one set of facts apply to a time or situation, influence now as much as you can, and the future can look greatly different. A lot of times people just get down on life, really. Just worry so much about small or particular set of circumstances or something of that nature, and forget how much more there is to life. I see a few people here. I just wanted to see if I'm answering any of these questions with what I'm about to say. That being said, one way we like to find out what's happening is through statistics. Mother fucker. All right.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio. Please enter your
Let's try
host
this
pin.
again.
When finished, press the pound key.
To start your show now, press 1. To hear important...
Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now.
Appreciate it. All right. Welcome back. Those who are listening on Blog Talk Radio, the show cut out again. If we continue to get these issues, the show will end early. I'm just saying, it will. I'll try to make it up with the podcast later on in the week. If we don't get through this, Blog Talk Radio is the longest broadcasting relationship that we have with this show. The show was started on Blog Talk Radio, and we've continued with Blog Talk Radio for 6 years now? Almost 7. So, if it will be one of the broadcast partners moving forward, I don't know. I'm just saying this right now because of technical issues and stuff like this. They interrupt shows and distort the quality of the broadcast that we're trying to put out. So, I gravely apologize for the interruptions. If something dropped off somewhere in a take, I apologize. I do recommend that everybody go to their store, wherever they get applications, online. Go to Spreaker, Spreaker, or Spreaker.com. Follow the show there. Listen to the show there. You can listen to the full 3 hours, unabated. I think we've only had a couple technical issues there in the couple years that we've been working with them. So, and we're syndicated also through in just about anywhere you can listen to podcasts. So, anyways, statistics. Statistics are a way that we try to keep track of accomplishments and kind of, in a way, a story of what happened. The problem with numbers and text are they don't have context to them always. Numbers almost never. Numbers are more abstract. When you just look at statistics like this. If we're talking about mathematical problems, physics, that's different. But we're just talking about statistics. For example, this year, if you looked at Eli Manning's statistics, you'd see that he's thrown for 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 2,061 yards, and has a passer rating of 94.1. He is currently ranked sixth in the NFL quarterbacks. And it looks like he is having a pretty superb season. and 8 weeks in. I mean, he's on pace for, just like most seasons, he's thrown for nearly 4,000 yards every season. 4,000. He's thrown for nearly 4,000 yards every season since pretty much 2009. An exception, he had 1 year that was 3,500, around 3,500, which is last year, which is statistically, I guess, one of his poorer seasons. It's actually his worst season since 2007 and 2008. Those 2 seasons were, he actually, really, the first 6 years of his career was pretty horrible. Not as horrible as the show continuing to cut out on Blog Talk. So we're going to try this another way. And see if we can get this show to work correctly. Alright. Thank you for bearing with us through these technical difficulties. I would, we would normally cut to a commercial in one of these sort of situations, but our commercials are all ran through Blog Talk Radio. And if Blog Talk is not connecting, it can't exactly do that. So all right. We'll try one other way. Let me see. Yeah. No. Okay. All right, I'm just gonna keep going. If the Blog Talk decides to work, and the Blog
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio.
decides to work,
Please enter your host PIN. When finished, press the pound key.
this does not really encourage too many people, I'm guessing, saying, hey, let me drop...
To start your show now, press 1.
a whole bunch of money for
Since
this.
it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now.
All right. So, anyways, it would appear that Eli Manning is having a great season. But if you watch the games, that's not really the case. Statistically, he's actually, he's completing at a good percentage. around 69%, which is good, which is highest in his career. He's actually throwing for almost 300 yards a game, which is the best since 2011. And he's on pace for over 4,000 yards. And so it's... I mean, he's actually at this point... I mean, he's completed 5 passes for over 40 yards. And, I mean, he's on pace to do... I mean, he only did 5 passes plus 40 yards all of last season. He's been sacked 24 times. But still has managed to get 2,000 yards and 7 touchdowns out of it. So, it would seem that he's actually among the top in the league. He's ranked 6th right now. And that's through yardage. 6th most yards. Passer rating, however, is not. Passer rating would put him actually down to 25th in the league. Just behind Ben Roethlisberger and just ahead of Andrew Luck. Two guys is usually not bad being between. However, if you've watched him play, he looks old, unathletic, not in sync, and doesn't really look like he can push the ball down the field. Like he can really go out and make a difference for the team. So I can tell you he's again, very unimpressive. But if you look at stats, it seems like he's doing great. He's probably solid right now as a fantasy quarterback. I mean, although out of quarterbacks who have thrown for 2,000 yards, I could actually say for quarterbacks that have thrown for at least 1,800 yards, he's thrown the least amount of touchdowns. That's the reason the Giants are not winning. They lose by 3. They look like they were there last night. They end up losing by 3. But the real key to that game, I mean, Saquon Barkley had 43 yards and a touchdown, but he also had 51 receiving yards as well. I mean, he had, nearly 100 all-purpose yards. He was really close to that. I think they were trying to get him over that. Odell Beckham Jr. had 143 receiving yards and a touchdown on 11 targets. Barkley was targeted 10 times. Had 8 receptions. So he only won. So that's ridiculous. He was targeted 10 times. So out of 10 passes thrown in his vicinity, he caught 9 of them. Beckham caught 8 of 11. Sterling Shepard caught 5 of 8 for 167 yards. So clearly he has guys making moves once they catch the ball. Evan Ingram looked good last night. He actually had some rushing yards. He ran one time for 10 yards on like a jet sweep play. He looked good on that. It kind of went away from him. It's the Jets need youth at quarterback. They need a change at quarterback. And at 1-6 today, they traded Eli Apple. They traded away Eli Apple for a 4th round and a 7th round pick to the Saints. Now the Saints win that. They win that trade because it made them better. He wasn't their answer at cornerback. He is not. Right now, in the league for the most part, Eli Apple's just a guy. He's a jag. He's just a guy. He's talented. I don't think the Giants have done him any justice as far as how they've developed him. But the Saints were high on him coming out of the draft, and they think they can do something with him. Now, this doesn't mean that Patrick Peterson, cornerback with Arizona, is off their radar. He's very much still on their radar, and they would actually look at using him also as in some situations at safety. That's the thing is with some of the bigger cornerbacks and more skilled cornerbacks, they can switch over to safety and play safety. Actually, Rondé Barber did that later in his career. Antoine Roll did that as well. Made the move from cornerback to safety. And you see some guys that go from a linebacker to safety or safety to linebacker. Mark Barron, he was one of those guys that was a safety. They moved him to a hybrid linebacker. So the other quarterback that I've seen a good amount of negative talk about, again, like most seasons, is Blake Bortles. He's not done good this season so far. I mean, 9 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Fumbles. He's lost 3 fumbles in the last 3 games. And, you know, it's not been the best look this season. I mean, they restructured his contract to get more money. But as far as the interceptions go, I mean, most of those interceptions came against Kansas City. 4 of them. When you have a 4 interception day, that's tough. But what he's really gotten the most flack over is his inconsistency. Like they beat the Giants week 1. He throws for 147 yards. He had a touchdown, a sack, an interception, no fumbles, right? And they win. The next week, he comes out. He rips it against New England. They beat the Patriots. He throws 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Passer rating of 111. Looks like a genius. Runs 6 times for 35 yards. Comes out the very next week against Tennessee, the Titans, and loses in a game. Okay, the previous week, they won 31-21. They beat the Patriots by 11. The very next week, he comes out. They lose 9-6. He throws no touchdowns, no interceptions. He was sacked 3 times. He fumbled, didn't lose it, and he got it back, and threw for 155 yards. The next week against the Jets, they come out, and he goes off again. 388 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have an interception and was sacked twice. Passer rating of 114.8. Best of the season. They won 31-12. Kansas City, again, they very much lost. But, I mean, he threw for 430 yards in the game. Had a touchdown. Did have the 4 interceptions. I don't think all of them were on him, but he did have 4 interceptions. Sacked 5 times. He rushed for 34 yards on 4 attempts, and it had a touchdown there. So that's 2 touchdowns. I mean, we're looking at almost 500 yards in total offense for him. And he fumbled and lost the fumble. So he turned the ball over 5 times, but accounted for 2 touchdowns and almost 500 yards of offense. The next week, they play Dallas and lose 40-7. He only throws for 149 yards. He got a touchdown, an INT. He was sacked 3 times. And he rushed for, 22 yards. Last week against Houston, they lost 20-7. He threw for 61 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. He wasn't sacked. He fumbled twice, lost them both, and he lost playing time because he got benched. He got benched against the Texans. And sometimes that sort of stuff helps. And sometimes it doesn't. Cody Kessler came in. Didn't do much better. He was 21 for 30 for 156 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. I mean, he's not really the runner. You got it. 2 carries, 8 yards. So it's a wonder. Again, it's not just that Leonard's out for the Jags. Just kind of looking at the Jags. It's not just because Leonard's out, but also because this offense is really inconsistent. They need to make some more effort along the front line. He needs to work at allowing the game to come to him. He's looked really good at times, but for whatever reason, cannot maintain consistency. And that's what's killing him. And that's what, again, gives teams like the Jags pause, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do and what direction they go next. It's just it's just not enough to have some good games. It's how do you build and maintain a level of consistency? So these Blake Bortles and Eli Manning have given their teams some pause. Another guy that has kind of been in the forefront of many's conversation as far as looking for answers. I can tell you, Kirk Cousins has not been on the radar for people. But Case Keenum, he has not performed this year like he did last year. 8 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 118, almost 119 yards. It's just, I mean, last year, 22 touchdowns. He already has more interceptions this year than he did all of last year. I mean, he's actually, the most interceptions he's thrown in a season is 11. And that was 2 seasons ago with the Rams. He started 9 games there. He played in 10 games and threw 11. He's played in 7 games and thrown 9. He's a couple games ahead of pace right now. He's had good games. But he doesn't. At 3-4, he doesn't look like he's the answer that the Broncos were hoping for. They beat Arizona last week. But again, just about everybody has beat Arizona. And he's just it's tough finding what really is going to make his effort great. I don't know if he's not getting it down the field like he should. But let me tell you, Philip Lindsay, I talked to this guy. He's a rookie. I talked to him this year at the Shrine Game. God, this guy, when you see him playing and practicing and training and just have a conversation with you, you understand that this guy, he has heart, he has grit, and it doesn't matter what the hell anyone says. He's gonna go get his. He's going to go do his thing. And he's going to make a difference. If you look at him, what do they have him listed at? Let me pull it back here. I'll find out. They have him listed at. '11th. He's 11th in rushing right now in the NFL. They got him listed at 5'8". I think that's generous. 5'8", 190. He clearly put on some weight. I don't think he's 5'8". I can post a picture. I'm 6'3". I don't think he's 5'8". He may be 5'6". I'm telling you, the guy is not. Like if you saw the guy in the mall, I mean, you walk. He could be the dude working in Journeys, and people wouldn't know. Like, I'm talking, it's not like he's this imposing person. He's not a big guy. But he has heart and grit and just the level of determination just to do it. And it's infectious. You know, leaders, that's something you look for in leaders. But he's showing what sort of a value he brings to the table. He's ranked, again, 11th in rushing right now. It's 436 yards this season. And that's in, 7 games? 7 games. And he hasn't started any. He's started 0 games. Let's see here. And he has 119 receiving yards as well. So he has. I wonder where that puts him at all purpose. If that'll give me all purpose. This does not give me all purpose. Whatever. Nonetheless, he's balled out there. He's done well for them. Another guy that very much could be on people's radar is Jameis Winston. he, not for his play, he's actually done better as far as making better decisions. I mean, this past week against the Browns, he was 32 for 52. He slung the rock 52 times for 365 yards, didn't get a single touchdown, and threw 2 interceptions. He ran the ball 10 times for 55 yards and got a touchdown on the ground. They had 3 rushing touchdowns on the day. None of them were from running backs. Jameis was the leading rusher on the team with 55 yards. They could not get anything going on the ground at all. Mike Evans had 107 yards through the air. O.J. Howard had 67. Godwin had 56, 58. And Adam Humphries has 37. Deshaun Jackson only had 2 catches for 25 yards on 5 targets. Deshaun Jackson, one of the most explosive parts of their offense, was only targeted 5 times the entire game. I digress to say, Jameis Winston threw the ball 52 times. And 50 times, 47 times, he threw it to somebody other than, is it 5? No, 4. 58 times. 58 times he threw it to somebody other than Deshaun Jackson. Who? Yeah, it was 557. So, I mean, you got 57. I just don't get it. 11. That's 20. I'm just like trying to figure out who all these people are. Is he passing to coaches? 52 times. You threw the ball 52 times and only 5 of them towards Deshaun Jackson? Who's getting the rock tossed to him? 52. Who's getting thrown at him? 52 passes. My goodness. But his off the field stuff is what continues to burden him. Clearly, it's past the point of where you go and you're apologizing to people. I'm sorry, it wasn't right of me. I know it wasn't right. How many times you come back and saying the same BS apology, same PC apology? I'm sorry. It's been irresponsible for me. I'm a professional. I'm a leader on this team. I'm a bit blah, blah, blah. Alright. You have some nasty allegations against you. You're stealing crab legs. And then you say some obscene, outlandish things in front of a bunch of people. Think it's done. Then you go and fiddle around with Uber drivers. Come on, man. Just stop. Just stop. Just stay home. You getting married, you have a baby on the way, just stay with your wife, your girl. Right? Show some love and respect to that woman. Just stay home with her. Maybe she wants you to go. I don't know. Bad decisions on the field, too. 2 interceptions. Again, we need to start looking at interceptions differently. I've been campaigning for this for years. An interception is not an interception. If in baseball you can have a wild pitch and a passed ball, I think it's good to look at it. Who gets the interception? Because they have essentially like a passer rating or a passer rating for wide receivers. There is a such statistic. Same way they have for DBs. What is the passer rating against this DB? Right? Receivers have same kind of statistic. What is the quarterback rating of that? And if it's a deflected or if it's a blown route or something like that, then the statistic for interception should reflect that. But let's see here. Do a couple of your messages in. No, I don't. Haven't been playing Madden, hadn't been. Hunt, yeah. Talking about voter rights. I will say, if you are going in to vote, when you go to vote, and again, there are roughly three times as many people, 300% more people in these early stages of election are voting. If you decide to mail it in, right, where you're in a state where they check signatures, make sure your signature matches the signature that you have on your voter registration card. If you do not know what that signature looks like, ask to see it. Show your ID and ask to see it, or ask to get a copy. So if it doesn't match, your vote won't count. My autograph and my signature are very different. My signature is not legible and looks different every single time. For that reason, I go into the poll to vote. Otherwise, my vote doesn't get counted. Now, this is not a political show, but I think it was important to share that. Yeah. Also, another thing. I was working on an article away from sports, actually about hurricane clips and straps. I'm just trying to create some awareness around this. Again, there'll be some months before we get statistics back from Hurricane Michael. But my suspicion is most of the buildings that are still standing are because they had hurricane straps and clips as a part of the construction, because everything just after 2000, I think it's 2004 here in Florida, they made it mandatory to put them in all new builds. It's not mandatory for re-roofs, and it's actually, I couldn't find anybody in Tampa to do that when I was going to replace a roof. Talked to several different companies. But yeah, nobody. Nobody did that. Just on new builds. So, it's important. Check to see what the code is in your state for wind mitigation and to protect your home against inclement weather. You feel that you're close to a flood zone, or you're in a flood zone, check out the map and see if you can get zoned out of it or buy additional coverage to keep you safe, or at least help have something to replace your stuff. So, the World Series is in the top of the sixth. Dodgers are up to bat. Kemp is at the plate. He is 1 of 2 on a 2-2 count. Kelly on the mound. The score is Dodgers 3 and Boston 5. Sorry, Boston 5. There is someone warming up now in the Dodger bullpen, just to give you an update on the first game of the World Series. And Kemp goes down swinging. So, that game, the World Series, is over on Fox. Yeah, a little change up there. Swung over the top of it. So, all right, back to the sports on this end here. So a lot of people have been freaking out about the Lakers. I've had several people like, "Oh my gosh, the Lakers are winless on the season." When they say winless, there's only been the Lakers have only played in 3 games. The most any team has played in the league is 4 games, and the Raptors and Golden State are the only, and Minnesota has 4, and the Clippers have 4. So that's it. Everybody else has only had 3 games. And I was saying earlier in the show, one professional beat writer was saying that if the Lakers don't win this next game, which is on tomorrow, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, against the Suns, that they need to turn on the panic button. The Lakers lost by 1 point to the Spurs. A game that went into overtime. They lost to the Rockets by 9. A game in which they led at a portion. It was a winnable game for them. Again, a team that was in the Western Conference Finals, they lose to by 9. Okay. And then the first game they lost to, again by 9. another game in which they were very close the whole game. They were down by, I think we were down by 2.5 to the number 3 seed Portland Trail Blazers. The Spurs, by the way, they're 2-1. They beat the Timberwolves. They also lost to the Blazers, and then they beat the Lakers. They play tomorrow at 8:30 against the Pacers. Now, I go through all this to just kind of come back. Really, when you look at the Lakers, or the West in general, the West is the Golden State Warriors. And then two through 11 just beat up on each other. It's not. Let me pull that back up there. Yeah, 2 through 14. Sorry, 2 through 14. Basically just beat up on each other from that point on. Oklahoma City also is winless. The Houston Rockets are 1-2. Bless me. Again, two teams that were in the playoffs last year. And the Pelicans are undefeated without Boogie Cousins or Rajon Rondo. They've played the Rockets, the Kings, and the Clippers. And they lost basically all of their preseason games. But they're undefeated right now. At this point, there is no way to sit and decipher and understand and know the read. There's no tea leaves to read. There's nothing. There's nothing to see yet. So for people to freak out and be like, "Oh, there's no way." Yes, the team that you see today and the team that you see on on Christmas, when the Lakers play, will look like two very different teams in play and the way that they play together. And they'll look even more different when we get into February at the All-Star break. As of right now, Caldwell Pope does not look like he's fitting with the team right now. And the Lakers doesn't look like outside of Hart, they really have any sort of three-point options. And LeBron James is not reliable for free throws. LeBron's free throw issue is not a surprise. The Lakers not having three-point shooting is not a surprise. Things in time will correct themselves. Nobody is looking for the Lakers to come in and win a title this year, with or without LeBron. I think they're a playoff team. I don't think they're going to make much ripple in the playoffs. LeBron will finally get to start his vacation much sooner than he has any time in the last 8 years. So, it'll be the first finals without LeBron James in a decade. It's crazy to think that, but that's essentially what will happen this year. And that's fine. But some of the bigger questions that will need to be answered this year, and we need to see with LeBron this year, is he's had a lot of critics saying he's a product of the East Coast. He's not going to be able to win the games the way he won games in the East, even when he went from Cleveland to Miami and back to Cleveland and made it to the playoffs and finals just like that. It's not going to be that easy. And they're saying he's a product of the East. There's less talent in the East. The schedule and the teams are just weaker in the East, which are valid. But we will see as the season comes. I'm not putting too much weight. I just wanted to address this because there was some over crying about it. But it's just people just need to stop. With that. So yeah. So I got a message here from the engineers. We're gonna cut off what we're gonna cut the show a little short tonight, but first I'm gonna bring in on the line here from the DMV, James Bell. How are you doing tonight, James?
Hey, yo. Yeah, I heard you were talking about interceptions a few minutes ago, so I think you were talking about Jameis.
I was talking about Bortles and Jameis and Eli, Case Keenum. The ones that teams kind of relied on and sunk money into and saw shit going a bit differently with. Yeah. Them's dudes. So how about Jameis? What do you think?
Dude.
What do you think of Jameis's return? I have this feeling like there are a couple getting a divorce but still living in the same house and trying to play nice so not to scar the children for life. I don't know. What do you get from it?
What in reference to the
Jameis and his future in Tampa?
Yeah, Jameis. Man, the thing is that we kind of some people that said it after the first few weeks of the season that even with Fitzpatrick getting those couple of wins at the beginning of the season, that once Jameis Winston was going to be out of his suspension, that they were going to play him because it's his contract year. So the thing that we're seeing with him is you kind of see some things that are a little bit improved in Jameis Winston, but you also see signs of the same old Jameis, same guy that ends up Missing people, missing throws, kind of like not seeing coverages pretty much within the front seven, and throwing an interception. And the thing about it is that as a quarterback, one thing that you have to do is you can't turn the ball over. You have a lot of people that play quarterback, and there's a lot of people a few people that have been like the best quarterbacks, but those that end up winning championships most likely, don't turn the ball over as much, and they don't make that many mistakes. So what Jameis is that you can't be very successful in the National Football League by either turning the ball over or causing yourself to get yourself sacked. So that's what we pretty much saw in his game against the Atlanta Falcons. Even though he was able to end up with 4 touchdowns, he still had interceptions in that game. And then this one here in this past week against the Cleveland Browns, he nearly had the game lost there with the game going to overtime, and then they had a possession, and Cleveland ended up intercepting the ball in overtime, and they had a shot to win the game, but didn't. And then in that
that pass in overtime was grossly underthrown.
Yeah. So you had that, and then defense was able to hold to get the ball back, and then it had the one thing where second down, Jameis ends up holding the ball too long and has that long loss in the sack. And I mean, if it wasn't for that third down conversion, they would have been able to have that chance to kick that field goal. But you can't put your offense in those types of situations. Making those type of completions on third down usually aren't as likely. You don't want to have more of those third and longs out there. You got to have third and shorts, third and fourths, third and twos, or whatever it is. So, I mean, I know what the personnel is, know what they got, but you got to deal with the hand that you got dealt. And if you can't make the best out of it, you still going to end up the loser. You know what I'm saying? You can't get a few books out of what you got, man. Then hey, that's on you.
And as far as Jameis goes, this year isn't necessarily a contract year because he's a first-round pick, so he has a fifth-year option. So they could pick up his option for it's like almost $21 million, or let him go.
I mean, 50-year option, $21 million. That's going to be the question at the end of the season. Depending on what they do, is like, okay, let's say that they don't make the playoffs again, and he's the he's the guy at quarterback, and he has like a fairly average season or below average season. Then, I mean, why as a franchise, why would you pick up someone for a quarterback for $21 million for one more year when you could probably get somebody for less than that? Either through the draft or through free agency. You're going to put $21 million for a quarterback that you already know what he's done over the past few years. You know what he's seen, what he's done, outside the football field. I mean, you want that to be your quarterback. He's supposed to be the franchise quarterback, and he's supposed to be the face of the team. And this is what you got to face your team, to face your franchise. You don't want that.
Yeah, he needs. I don't know. I know we've talked about it before, and I said it before. He just needs to go sit down somewhere. Just stop. Just stop. Like he needs to find a way just to get obsessed with football and just be there all the time. Literally. Either family or football. And that's it. Have friends. You have friends after football. You know, have a 10, 15-year career and then go make friends. You know? It's just, there's too many times that there's too many guys that I've seen in and out of this league. They come in the league or try to get in the league, get a little somewhere, and just screw it up. Because they don't stay focused. Because, you know, they're not treating the business and treating it like a profession. They take for granted a talent. And they're not, you know. See, this is what when I said there was issues, that he had work ethic issues. Again, this goes back to what people told me, issues at Florida State. The dude does not stay focused. He doesn't stay focused. And you see it in his play. You see it in his behavior off the field. Yes, is he a guy that they feel like he's a leader? Does he work hard? Yeah. So the work ethic doesn't necessarily just mean does he work hard or does he not work hard. It's working hard and being consistent. That's what they're looking at for work ethic. Just because you work hard, and just because you put in hard work and you go out there and you look like you're trying, but if you're not consistent with your attitude, your behavior, and your actions, that makes a huge difference. And I don't think he has been consistent with his attitude, his actions, and his behavior. He needs to work on the decision making even more. You know? I mean, he's kind of the same situation as Amari Cooper. He's good enough right now for somebody that somebody should give up, you know, second, third round pick for. But I don't think any team should be giving up a first round pick for the guy.
"90 seconds."
Yeah.
So he just hasn't showed that he can maintain. I mean, look at the Bucs' record over the last 4 years. Where are the playoff appearances? You can't say the team hasn't had talent. I mean, he made a Pro Bowl appearance his rookie year as an alternate.
60 seconds.
We're blaming that on Lovey?
Yeah. He was looking. I'm sorry, man. I remember back then, man. They gave me that alternate, and I was like, oh, come on, man. I mean, dude. I'm sorry, man, but to this day, I don't see why he basically got that. I think he got that by default because they were talking about the stats and everything and all that. And I'm like, man, most of those stats came on the back end of a bunch of games, man, when most of those games are already over. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, nah, man. So, I mean, they wanted to, right off of that. But, I mean, you see over the next couple of years or so, they didn't
10 seconds.
Carry off that momentum. And for me, it was kind of like, felt like they, they kind of like didn't develop. I don't think the problem was I don't think they developed his overall game from the first year to the second year, and so that's why he ended up being, at the level that it was at. Going from year 1 to year 2 and then year 2 to year 3 is that he didn't make those adjustments to say, hey, okay, I know I got like this guy that I know I can go to, but I got these other options, and so he didn't end up developing his game. He didn't look at his various options. He didn't come up with a mental clock to, not hold on to the ball. He didn't really, want to. He didn't learn how to throw the ball away when he was in trouble. So you got to have those type of qualities as a quarterback, especially as a starting quarterback, and especially as someone who was drafted first overall to be the face of the franchise. You got to be able to have all of those decisions in you. And I just didn't think that he ever had that, even at Florida State.
And you know what? It's just, I think he's been a huge benefactor of having some of the best receivers around. Without Mike Evans, and again, I sold Mike Evans a little short. So I don't think I whiffed on where I thought. I definitely felt he was a first-round talent. I thought he'd go more towards the bottom of the first round, but definitely the way he showed up his entire career shows that he was definitely a middle of the top first-round talent at wide receiver. He has been the biggest thing for Jameis Winston. And pretty much everybody. Although, when Fitzpatrick was playing, he actually was kind of geared more towards Deshaun Jackson. But again, that's how you know. Again, people, I told people about this. I've said this about Fitzpatrick for years. If you give Fitzpatrick time, dude will carve you up like nobody's business. You get pressure on him, he makes mistakes. He tries to do too much.
Yeah.
But if you give him time, he will carve you up and serve you on a plate. Fitzpatrick is no joke. You cannot, I think he's a better option right now than Eli Manning, than Case Keenum.
I don't know, man.
But what his strength is coming in and playing for 5-6 games. But over a course of a season, there's only been a couple of seasons where he's really put something together that was decent. He's one of, I've always felt like he's one of those quarterbacks, if you just needed somebody, like a team, if you had talent on both sides, if you had a good defense, right? Like the years that Peyton Manning went to the Super Bowl, and they had all that talent at wide receiver, had a decent running game, and they had the best defense in the. I think you could have put Fitzpatrick in there and won the Super Bowl with him. Kind of similar to what we saw with the Eagles. If you put, he could be put. He's one of those holdover quarterbacks. He could definitely fill in and win some games. And if you can give him time, he'll do well for you. But if you're throwing him into a rebuilding situation and there's not consistency and he has to be on the field too much, it's not going to turn out good. But, that's the thing, is they say is the Fitzpatrick curse. Do you buy into that?
Where? Reference Fitzpatrick?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, is that, like I was saying before, reference to Jameis Winston. He hasn't quite learned, over the years about, having that specific clock in your mind in order to make a decision to get rid of the ball. Or, adjusting the offensive playbook to kind of like get the ball out of his hands after a certain point of time, no matter what. So, the thing with Fitzpatrick is, it was like you were saying, with those first few games or whatnot, that, with Fitzpatrick, he didn't necessarily, focus on, Mike Evans. He kind of like, incorporated Deshaun Jackson in the offense, and that kind of like switched things up as far as like how, opposing defenses covered those receivers. And, by going off for Jackson, that's, what opened things up for Mike Evans and then the other receivers that they had. That's why he kind of like seen that, Fitzpatrick was having like 400-yard games, every week, because that's kind of like how they ran their offense. And the thing about it is that, they didn't really have much of a running game, but still, you still weren't able to, stop that offense then. So, on that instance, you kind of like seen how, the Bucs didn't, or Jameis Winston being suspended, didn't really pay attention to, what Fitzpatrick was doing. And, even though in that game against the Steelers kind of like adjusted and kind of like got hip to what Fitzpatrick was doing, I didn't think that, Jameis really kind of saw what the veteran in Fitzpatrick was doing. So, I mean, to me, that's why I was like, they shouldn't have really, put Fitzpatrick on the bench, just like that. In that first week that Winston got back from suspension. I think they should have just, had him, sit there for a little bit, watch what Fitzpatrick was doing, for a week, especially against like the Atlanta Falcons, because like at that particular time, the Falcons weren't really, that good on defense anyway. So, they could have did something. Should I say, hey, this is how you can utilize the offense. This is how you could, use these receivers, and then be able to, run a whole offense to, work better overall for the team. And I don't think he did that. So we're going to see here, in these next few weeks, how Winston is going to carry this team and this offense. Because, if he has to do that and they end up having another bad season, then, like I was saying before, they're going to be like, I don't know if they're going to risk having $21 million for the salary cap on a quarterback that, is pretty much an up and down type of quarterback.
Deshaun Jackson went over 100 yards in 3 of the 4 games that Fitzpatrick played in. Three of the 4.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm just looking up since then.
Yeah, man. I mean, I have, because I know a little bit about that, because I had Jackson on my fantasy team, and man, last week he didn't really give me
he had 5 targets.
He only got like what 1 reception over in
2.
Time?
2.
That was his first reception?
Yeah, 2 receptions for 25. You got 2.2 points from him. 2.5 points. That's it.
Yeah. So I'm like, man, you gotta be able to use, man. Deshaun Jackson's supposed to, be big time receiver short. So why not use him? I'm like, man, that's what the Bucs acquired him for. But you ain't gonna use him? That don't make no sense.
Week 6, he had 77 yards. I'm trying to pull weeks 7 against Cleveland, including overtime. He had, that's right, he only had 25 yards. Yeah, I was right. He was targeted 5 times. Jameis Winston threw the ball 52 times. And only 5 times. That means 47 other times he threw the ball. I don't know who the hell he's throwing the ball to 52 times in a game. Because they didn't have for rushing yards. Yet, they had 3 rushing touchdowns. None of them by running backs. No runners made running touchdowns in the game. None. They had 3 rushing touchdowns.
Damn.
Yeah. Jameis, I don't even think Jameis had a passing touchdown in the game. Let me look. He did not. He rushed for a touchdown. He gave the ball over via interception twice. He fumbled it twice. And he lost one of those fumbles. So he gave them the ball 3 times. And put it in the end zone once. Yeah, he had 365 yards through the air. 2 times it went to somebody else's team. And no times did it go into the end zone. He had 1 run for 14 yards. That was a touchdown. No, I'm sorry. No, his longest was 14. He had 10 rushes for 55 yards. He ran the ball 10 times. Ball put it this way, 55 yards, he was the Bucs' leading runner in the last game against the Browns. He was the leading rusher. And they got rid of Doug Martin. Never picked anything up in the offseason. Really didn't. I don't know why I thought Jones was going to be the answer. Yeah. And now Doug's probably going to be the starter in Oakland. Beast mode. They put him on IR today, which technically he could return from, but he'd have to sit out until that date. I think it's week 12. 10 or 12. But he is on IR. The Raiders are effectively tanking right now. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to have a core group of veterans while trying to, again, the move for Amari Cooper was, again, Amari Cooper, they said that they would trade him if they got a 1. They were getting offers for second and third rounders. The Cowboys were really not in a position where they could offer a second and third rounder and be competitive. So they had to overpay for it. He's not, as of today, he is not a first round value. He's more of a low second, high third round value. I'll put it this way. If we just look at the Bucs, Adam Humphries has more receiving yards, has more receptions than Amari Cooper since they were drafted.
Sure.
Adam Humphries. Yep.
Yeah, man.
Yes. So, again, the value for him is not there. Obviously, everybody sees the upside. He's a tremendous athlete. He's good at creating space, which is exactly the opposite of what Dez Bryant was good at. Dez Bryant was just good at coming down with the football. You just needed to throw it in his area. He would go get it. He would get the football. That's what Dez Bryant was good at. And he's still not playing football. He had a contract in hand from the Browns and decided it was not enough money. The thing is about Dez, I mean, he's a free agent. They can sign him at any point in time. I venture you to see more interest in Dez Bryant after the trade deadline. Because he's definitely staying in shape.
And that's what? And that's what next Tuesday.
But yeah. Also, so I'm gonna just kind of explain the Le'Veon Bell situation too, because I hear a lot of rumors, rumors on social media, not rumors in the media, just social media. Oh, they might trade him. They won't. Nobody is going to give up anything to trade for Le'Veon Bell. Because not only do they have to pay his franchise tag amount for this year, he's a free agent in 6 weeks. He's a free agent. So, an unrestricted free agent, right? And the minimum, because of he's a franchise player, the minimum you have to give up, regardless of what you negotiate for, is 2 first-round picks. So you're going to give up 2 first-round picks for a guy that has not played a single down this season, being fully capable of doing so, and is going to want probably... He's probably going to be looking for around $25, $26 million a year. Because he's getting, what, 24 now? What is he getting now? Well, he's not getting anything now because he didn't show up. You have to show up in order to get paid, which is good.
Yeah. True.
Let me check here. All right, so his franchise tag amount for 1 year is $14 million. It was only $14 million. See, that's crazy. Like, Jameis Winston literally is getting more money on his 5th-year option at quarterback, on a rookie quarterback, the 5th-year option, than he's getting as a franchise player. A franchise tag player. And that's an average of what? The top 5 players or whatever at the position? Isn't that right?
Wait, isn't it around that same thing, though? Hold on. Wait, nah, you're right. Because... Well, the franchise tag, what was, because remember, the thing with Kirk Cousins, he was going to be franchised again at Washington if they kept him. So, well, I think that franchise tag was like around, what, $17 million?
No, I think it was a little more than that. I have to go back and look. I will. But dude got a fully guaranteed contract.
Yeah.
That's
that's
OG.
They had franchise tag was set for quarterbacks at over 23.
Yeah, he was 23-9.
So yeah, over 23. So it's like, it was so even with Jalen's getting the option, that would be at 21. But if they had that thing for a franchise, he would be around 23.
Yeah, and that's see.
Actually, it would be more than that. It could be more than that because this was for the 2018 season. So 2019, that's going to be higher than that. So that could be around like 23. What is it, about 23.2? Probably about 23.3.
Well, the thing is, so I get what he's done, and you know what? I hope the Steelers work something out and pay the guy and keep him, because if not, what he's done isn't really help. It's not really helping him so much. He's trying to set a market, an increased market for high-end players. Because, again, he's a unique player. Another player that should be able to reap benefits like he has when their contract is up, or like he may when their contract is up, like Alvin Kamara. A guy that is a hybrid player. That's a running back and a wide receiver, and they're highly effective, efficient guys. Guys like that. We're not just talking about straight running backs. You know, this is something that, Ezekiel Elliott, he catches the ball as well. Not as much as Le'Veon Bell. Saquon Barkley. That's how he's being used. He's being used just like Le'Veon Bell. He is like Le'Veon Bell. If you look at like their value to the team and the offense, I mean, the guy has in his career has almost had 100 yards of all-around production yards in every single game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's been over 100 yards of combined yard in every single game. Like, the guy is highly efficient. He makes shit happen. He can get to the edge. He can go between tackles. He can jump over guys, go through guys. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball. Shit, if they gave it to him to throw it, he'd probably throw it too. I don't know. I'm just saying. They have a very unique skill set. So he's trying to set a market for him and those like him. Thing is, now it's up to the agents to argue that their guy is like him. Kareem Hunt is another one of those guys. I mean, Tyreek Hill, you could kind of put them both kind of in that same thing. Multi-purpose, utility, hybrid players, highly athletic. You can't just say they're a receiver, just say they're a running back, or can't say they're an H-back, they're not a Z, they're not a Y, they're not a scat, they're not a premier, they're not a third down. They could do all of it at the highest level. And that's the thing is, how do you pay that? See, this is the trouble that the NFL is facing and players face, because the collective bargaining agreement was based on position. But how do you place the value on the position? Now, if you play multiple positions, how do you break it down that way? They need to negotiate this so it's a percent of productivity. Because clearly, just looking at the Steelers now, he clearly added wins to their team. Not just statistics, not just stats, not just numbers, but wins. He accounted for wins. He's the most efficient piece of their team, and was accounted for a large portion of the team's offense.
Mm. Yeah.
So it, you know, but he hasn't got paid a penny this year. If he waits till next week, next Tuesday to show up, if he shows up, and this thing is like they should appreciate it. He could have showed up week 1 and said, "I'm hurt. I don't feel good." Fake an injury. You know, he could have faked an injury. The thing is, he's choosing not to play. As the president said, you got to pay me for my services. I know what I'm worth. I will not do this for free. I will not do this for under what I'm valued. I mean, he looks over at guys like Odell Beckham. Let me see, what's Odell making? As a receiver. 5-year, $90 million. Guaranteed 40, almost 41. Average salary $18 million. So how is he going to sit here and say your salary got me at 14? You got a guy like Jameis who may or may not be in the top half of the league, depending on the game, depending on the week, depending on where his mind's at as far as his position. And I'm the premier person at my position in the league, on my team. Count for more offense. I'm efficient, more efficient than anybody else. But I get paid less. You pay me on the scale for running backs when I have to look back at the statistics. Let me pop up. Steelers 2017.
Nope. Just got a update. Eduardo Nunez just hit a home run, put Boston Red Sox up 8-4, bottom of the 7th, 2 out. Big hit right there because they were down. I mean, they weren't down. I mean, they were up 1, but it almost looked like Dodgers were kind of like trying to get the momentum right there. So it definitely needs that hit. Especially off of the top part of the inning, because Dodgers had the bases loaded. They were able to get a run in to get the thing to 1, but couldn't get the other guys, to cross home plate to either tie the game or take the lead. So Red Sox were able to respond here in the bottom of the 7th to get a get a home run right there to go up 8-4.
So the last 3 years with the Steelers, So 20. Because he was out part of 2015. So 2016 and 2017. He rushed for over 1,200 yards and received over 600 yards in both seasons. Again, last year he missed the first 3 games. He missed the first 3 games. In 2014, he had a full season, 1360 rushing, and had 854 yards receiving. So every year, with the exception to 2015 and this season, or last season, he's been the second leading receiver on the team. He had more yards in 2014. He had more yards after the catch than Antonio Brown. In 2016, second leading rusher. Again, more yards after the catch than Antonio Brown. About 30% more. 2017. Third leading rusher. He had more yards after the catch. He almost had more yards after the catch. Well, no, not really. Pretty close, though. Close to more yards after the catch than Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster combined. He had 699, and they had 5, 7, 8. Had like 8 something. So he had almost 7. They had 8 something. But he accounted for 655 yards. He was targeted 107 times. He was targeted more times than Juju Smith-Schuster. He had the second most targets on the team. He carried the ball 321 times and was targeted 107 times. Antonio Brown was targeted 162 times. Like, these are actual attempts. 321. That's 428. Essentially, that's 428 attempts between passing and rushing. But yet, they want to pay him less than the guy that just catches the ball. And clearly, once he catches the ball, he's more effective with it once he catches it than both of those guys. And he almost never fumbles. He had 3 fumbles last season. Oh, that's receiving first down. He accounted for 31 first downs from receiving and 71 first downs from rushing. That's a grand total of 105 first downs. That's more than Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster combined. No, it's not. But it's pretty close. Really close. Yeah, because that's 110. They got 110. He has 105. Like, it's not even crazy. And again, that's missing 3 games. That's playing 3 less games. Nine rushing touchdowns and 2 receiving. So he accounted for 11 touchdowns. More than anybody else on the team. Not named Ben Roethlisberger. Anyways. But that's going to do it for the show tonight. Tune into the World Series. It's on Fox. You got Hernandez up to bat. He's 0 for 3 right now. Top of the 8th. 1 out. 1-1 count. Oviede's pitching. Dodgers 4. Boston 8. And I'm out. Have a good one.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio.